Blueberry conducts physician-led support groups, helping people live healthier, happier lives, free from metabolic disease. And on our podcast, Blueberry with Dr. Lori Martis, we bring to you nutrition and lifestyle medicine experts and extraordinary guests to empower and inspire you with their knowledge and stories of plant-based lifestyle so that you can be your healthiest self.
Welcome to the podcast. I'm Dr. Lori Martis, and today I'm very excited to welcome a very special guest, Kelley Hale, who is one of my patients and who's had a wonderful transformation story. And I really think you guys are going to enjoy. So Kelley, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Dr. Marvis and Lori. Sorry.
No, that's okay.
Thank you for inviting me to share my story, and I'm really excited about sharing that with your audience.
Wonderful. And, I think a great place to go is just kind of give a little background on you. So let's just kind of go back to the beginning. You were well until what was going on in your life and what did you deal with? And we'll just kind of go from there.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much most of my life, say growing up, pretty much grew up on like the standard American diet and everything, and never had any issues with, health issues as a child, or even like weight issues. In fact, I think I calculated my BMI when I graduated high school. If anything, I was probably considered to be underweight. I was always, I had, friends that were probably giving me an insight into like their jealousy, like towards me, because like, oh, she can eat whatever she wants, and she never gains any weight or anything. And they always saying that I had a high metabolism or anything like that. And I was, very active and never any issues. But there probably was some indications that I probably had some things that were going on. I am a mother of two daughters, and my oldest is almost 20, and my youngest is 16. I'm going to be 17 in October. But with my first pregnancy, I did have gestational diabetes, and but nothing that the doctors told me to like be alarmed about. I just needed to watch my weight when I was in my 40s, and then I probably wouldn't have any issues. But then, felt pretty good. My weight was probably in check for, most of that. I lost the baby fat because, after, having your kids and things. But then in 2015, I had a sudden like flare up, I guess, if what you would call, and it was this one day, or actually one evening while I was sleeping, I woke up in the middle of the night and all of my hands had swollen up, and my rings that were on my fingers, I couldn't get them off, and it was like almost like a panicking kind of thing. It didn't have any any understanding of like what was going on, but I was actually able to, like, I remember like running my hands under cold water for a long time, and was able to, and like using some soap and things like that, was able to get my rings off. And, but didn't think like too much of it. It was, it just happened. It like maybe lasted for like a couple of days. And then like progressing over like a few months, I guess would say I just noticed like more and more stiffness, and, like joint pain, and primarily in my hands. I was noticing I was having a hard time, like gripping a coffee mug, or I'm saying like gripping a coffee mug, or a lot of like pain in my knees and my ankles. That was the one that was just, I couldn't understand what was really going on. And because like my ankles, I can remember like waking up in the morning and just almost like dreading to get out of bed, because I knew that I was going to have like severe like stiffness and pain in my ankles, and like just I would have to like walk it out each morning as after I woke up. And but there happened to be like that time, there was a lot of stress in my life. I was going through a divorce and just being a single mom and, just like things and just like, okay, maybe it's just related to stress. Who knows what's going on? But then finally I decided I needed to go, get this checked out and just, discuss this with my doctor. And when I went to the doctor, they did, blood work. And then the doctor actually called me back and said, I'd like you to come in so we could discuss your blood work. And
never a good thing.
Yes. And, but just like overall is what had happened is that what my doctor had told me is that I had markers for lupus. And then he wanted me to go see a rheumatologist. So then I go to a rheumatologist and ultimately with the rheumatologist, I had the diagnosis of rheumatoid arthritis. And, but their arthritis was, I would say like, so, and we were just like treating the symptoms. And, as soon as at the rheumatologist, the rheumatologist just offered me like the series of medications. I started on Plaquenil and then went to methotrexate, and which in my mind and myself, I knew like from the very beginning that methotrexate wasn't going to work for me because I actually work in the pharmaceutical industry. And I can remember us testing methotrexate in my laboratory. And I remember like all of the precautions that we had to take because of the exposure levels to this and, like all the potential side effects and everything. So I was just like already in my head, I'm like, I don't even want to put this in my body. Like why? It was very frightening and scary. But then, okay, go ahead.
I'm just going to ask, so they offer you medications, but they never gave you any other alternatives or discussion about the cause specifically?
Right, exactly. And so every single time, and like I was actually seeing the rheumatologist from 2000, it was probably more in like 2016 up until 2019. But I went through the whole series of the medications. It was from Plaquenil to methotrexate, then I went to leflunomide, and then ultimately to weekly injections of Enbrel. And every 6 months when I would go to the doctor, I always had some inflammation somewhere. So they would always put me on a round of steroids. And a couple of times there was a conversation or it was just like mentioned, like how much, like diet soda do you drink? Or, it really wasn't anything about my diet at all. And I said, like, oh, okay. And then she said, like, limit it to like one a day or something. And, but then in the meantime of all this I really attribute it to the medications and things and like my own frustration, my weight is going up. And then in about a year and a half into this, then I had noticed from all places, from going to the eye doctor when they did my vitals, I noticed that my blood pressure reading was really high. And but the person at that time like didn't even say anything to me, and I was like, "Ooh, that's really strange," because I always remember even like years before, my blood pressure has always been very low. And then I started to like monitor it at home, or I had gone to another doctor's appointment. I can't remember what it was for. And then I was just like seeing these numbers. I'm like, this is quite alarming. Isn't anybody going to say something to me? And then, but then I was taking my, like monitoring my blood pressure at home often. And I was getting readings of like 180 over 95. And
oh my goodness.
Yes. And it just, I was like, okay, like, what's happening here? And so I called my primary care physician and got an appointment. And yes, and in the meantime, even in the office, and I was there for actually probably over an hour and a half, because they kept trying to get me to like calm down and then take my blood pressure again. But I didn't leave, when I left there, it was still in the 180s over 95. Spent the the evening on New Year's Eve between 2017 and 2018 in the emergency room because my blood pressure was 220 over 115.
Oh my God. And this was on medications or off? No
And
meds.
so I had just like started the medication and like ultimately got to the point where I was on 4 different medications for my blood pressure.
Oh, wow. Along with medications for the RA.
Yes. Yeah.
Wow.
So along with it. So, you know, at that time I was on Enbrel and probably, you know, an occasional round of steroids and then 4 different medications for my blood pressure. And then in the meantime, like, you know, is, you know, an occasional, or I would say not an occasional, but an occasional like Xanax. And also probably I was on Lexapro at this time too, because I'm getting, you know, I'm getting anxious, I'm getting depressed, I'm getting, you know, it's everything. And even in between, you know, at home too, on top of all the prescription medications, I've always said often, like, I can't remember when there was a time that I didn't have like an aid to help me fall asleep either, you know, like taking melatonin or taking, you know, an Advil PM. So then it would help, you know, because the Advil is going to help with the inflammation. So then I get, you know, but it's just like, it just seemed like everything was just, you know, counter reacting.
And things were kind of spiraling out of control.
Right.
And no one said, okay, let's look at the root cause here. So
Right.
what's going on in your mind, right? So you're telling me you're anxious of like, really what's going on internally? Like, what are your thoughts? What are your, you know, what are your kids thinking? So really, where are you there mentally?
Yeah. I mean, just mentally, I'm frustrated. I was nervous. And also I have to say, I did have, you know, like looking at my family history, you know, it's just like, okay, so I knew that a lot of my aunts had arthritis. I knew that both of my parents had high blood pressure. My father, he actually has had 2 heart attacks and he has 7 stents. My mom has peripheral artery disease and, you know, has, you know, hardening of her arteries in her legs. And so just thinking, and it's just like, and that was ultimately like what led me to this is because I, you know, in the industry that I work in, or in the pharmaceutical industry and the quality control laboratory is actually where we work, and we're doing investigations all the time. We're always getting down to the root cause. I mean, that's what, you know, that's the first thing that the FDA says to us whenever they look at any of the investigations is like, okay, how far did you get? Ask the 5 whys, you know, it's like all the problem solving, you know, techniques and stuff. And and honestly, it's like what led me to that is that I kept saying in my head, like, why? Like, I just don't understand why. I like, you know, my weight is in check. I don't understand why I don't feel good. And, you know, there really isn't any explanation. And I wasn't accepting of it. You know, and I remember waking up, it was literally like one day in the summer of 2019. And I had all of I was like putting together like my pill box, you know, of all the different pills that I'm taking. I'm like, I just can't believe this. I'm not even in, you know, I'm not even in my mid 40s yet, or yes. So I'm approaching my mid 40s and I said, I can't accept that this is going to be the rest of my life. And all I did was I Googled anti-inflammatory diet. And I first came across a woman, her name was Ivy Larson. So she wrote the book, it's called Clean Cuisine, and it was more about just eating clean. Mostly like organic foods, mostly whole food, plant-based, like plant predominant, but still had some meats and dairies, but from like grass-fed beef and you know, like those types, you know, free range chickens and eggs and things like that. And so, but then after that, so I actually read her book and it said, you know, was committed to like, you know, giving this a try. But I didn't stay with that for very long because in additional searches was the next person I came across, which was Dr. Joel Fuhrman, which I know you know very well. and then the nutritarian diet, and then it just like spiraled from there and just
In a good way.
Yes, and in a wonderful way. And just kept reading and just kept adjusting my diet and over again, to the point where it's like I can say, I don't label myself as a vegan or whatever, but it's like, okay, like I have people say to me like, oh, you're a vegetarian, oh, you're a vegan. I said, no, my diet is a whole food, plant-based diet.
Mhm.
And, I really like the term of nutritarian that Dr. Furman has coins, but because it has a lot more information in there. It's, it's really about like, it's, fueling and your body with nutrient dense food. So,
Mhm.
and just really understanding, like, and even when I adjust things, and if I kind of like, go off plan, I guess, if you want to put it that way, and just realize how quickly like your body reacts to it. And it's like, oh, okay, things are stiff today, or I feel like I'm, like, what's going on. And it really just has to, like, I have to look and see like, okay, what did I do? What did I eat? And it's like, and it really has an impact.
Let's unpack your journey to feeling better, if you wouldn't mind. So you started on let's focus more on the nutritarian type diet. When you started that, how quickly did it take you, one, to start feeling better, and two, to get off medications?
Okay. And so I got off on the medications on my own, because it just, and, I don't necessarily like recommend that, from everybody else, but I started to like wean myself off the medication, as soon as probably like a month. And when I knew that I was like dedicated and like, okay, I'm really not going to turn back, from this, and knew that it's, and realizing it's the mindset of that it's not a diet and it's about changing your lifestyle.
Mhm.
And just surrounding myself by more and more knowledge of, like, what is the best thing to put in my mouth, and how that's and how that's impacting on how I feel every day. And
Like, so let's talk about your blood pressure, because I know that lingered a second. And so
yes.
can we just kind of talk about what was your journey to getting off 4 of these medications? And then I really want to stress, talk about the stress that was a big part of yours as well, and what those
Yes.
interventions were outside of diet that helped you
Mhm.
conquer that. So I feel like that's really important.
Yes, I think it's, it really isn't all about just your diet. It really has a lot to do with like your overall health and wellness. And that is including, your mindset and work-life balance, stress management, and everything. And there's so many ways to address that, just for one, if you're eating healthy and you feel good that way, and then also incorporating a daily routine of exercise. I and even when I don't, follow like my own personal plan of, because in fact, what my daily schedule is that I wake up in the morning and I change into my workout clothes, and then I do about a 10 to 15 minute meditation, just to start my day, just to clear my mind, just to I don't know, it's just such a great start to my day. I don't even know how else to explain it. And and then it's, and realizing that it's such a practice. It really is a practice, and about getting that consistency into like your daily schedule, and then and how things are going to improve with the practice. Because if you, I've just noticed myself on the more and more that I incorporate the meditation into, and like the clearing of my mind, and and just having like a positive mindset, how it allows me to handle all the other stressors in your life. it's like about, thinking, like having the mindset that you like not to worry about what you can control, and what you can control is how you react to the situations around yourself. I just found that, throughout my day, if I don't do the meditation, then my mind isn't clear. I react a lot differently to any stressors that happen throughout the day. I just find that things just kind of like roll off my back now, it's
That's a really interesting thing. I'm become very familiar with a gentleman. His name is Mickey Singer. And he wrote a book called The Untethered Soul and the Surrender Experiment. And I've just more recently been exposed to it, and it's really fascinating. So, but I want to go back to your story, and then I'll relate that why I mentioned that. So you changed your diet. How long was it before you get off all of your blood pressure medications?
All of my blood pressure medications, I would say, was probably 3 months.
Okay, so 3 months, but then you were still kind of hitting some highs on the blood pressure. What led you to meditation specifically? And then I would like, if you could share with us, what does it mean to meditate? Like, what is the actual physical, mental stuff that you're doing, saying to yourself that makes that happen? Because I feel like for me, meditation is kind of a new thing as far as mindset's definitely practice and all that. But for me, the whole practice of meditation is a whole nother level of, there's a lot going on up here to turn off and relax. But like, what is your do? Like, what do you do exactly? Because that will be the question we get.
Right. Okay. What I do exactly is that I used, so I do 2 types of meditation. Well, I would say like 2 types of meditation, but I always do a guided meditation. That's what I always do. So I don't know. I don't think I could do a meditation on my own. It's probably going to take a lot more practice for me to be able to get there. It's, there's been many people who've, have gone to retreats or stuff, and they've been, like really involved in this, where they can just, quiet their mind on their own and stuff. It's probably been very difficult. Definitely not there yet. I still have a lot of room to grow there. But I literally have been just using the Calm app. And I think it's Jeff Warren is his name. And forgive me if I pronounced his name incorrectly or if I have it wrong, but he actually has a 30-day, course, I guess it's called, on like how to meditate. And so I just, started with that. And then now I do his, he has I think it's called the daily trip. So every morning it's about 10 to 15 minutes. And it really is just this guided in that course. It was on how to on different ways to meditate, some different things to react to. It's just realizing that, things are there around you, and it's okay to have some quiet time for yourself and to take a deep breath. And, all this stuff is going on over here, but it's okay that it's going on, and you don't have to address it right now. It'll still be there, even though if you take 10 to 15 minutes for yourself, it's, and that type of thing. But then I do a guided meditation when I go to bed at night as well. So I use on YouTube, there's a wonderful gentleman, Jason Stevenson, and I know I do have his name correctly because I've been using his guided meditations for some time. And his meditations it's like 2 to 3 hours or even up to 8 hours long. But it's about a 20-minute guided meditation to help you get yourself relaxed and to quiet your mind. And then probably by the end of that 20 minutes, you're sound asleep. But then in the background, there's still that nice, calming, relaxing music, or, like those ebb and flow sounds, that type of thing. So I found myself, when I do those, I fall asleep and I stay asleep. But if I happen to wake up in the middle of the night, it might just be like, oh, and okay, in a couple of minutes, I can drift right back to sleep. And it's really just keeps your mind quiet. And nice. So it's just been so useful.
That's fantastic. So those are some great resources, guys. So she said Jeff Warner, the Calm app, and then Jason Stevenson on YouTube, which I want to give you just just on I feel like this is a great resource too, is that the Untethered Soul by Mickey Singer, because he had a really interesting story. It's way too long to describe here, but the point for him is also, like you said, you know, how you were mentioning, there's this stuff going on over here and it's okay for you not to address it, but almost to see it as yourself, as the higher center of consciousness, this witness to things. So the voice in your head that's screaming you're stressed and tired or scared is just that. It's a voice, it's a reaction. You can observe it as yourself, right? So this is an object. It's like I can observe these flowers behind me. It's the same idea with the fear that bubbles up, the stress, the anxiety, all those things. And you can just observe it and you let it come and you let it wash away. And so that was really an interesting way of how he described it. I'm halfway through the Untethered Soul. I've read the other, which is his life story, which is phenomenally interesting. But anyway, but that might be something you might find interesting as well. But I feel like when you look over our visits is when you came to see me with the blood pressure, that really was key factor, was when you started doing that meditation and you said, you know, the mood improved and your blood pressure and your sleep. That was huge.
Yes. And it was, honestly, it was so relieving, because I couldn't tell you how many, you know, sleepless nights I've had, or just knowing how like everything is like just fluctuating throughout the day. And it's probably like, not that I'm measuring my blood pressure, you know, every, you know, a couple of hours or whatever. I can just see and how differently my body like physically reacts to any situation, just because I can handle things, you know, so much better.
What is your blood pressure running these days?
My blood pressure is actually, it's been averaging probably like around the 110s over 70s.
Perfect. That's fabulous.
And no medication. So
no medications. And so the plant-based diet, stress management, better sleep, better mood, because of all these things integrated into a healthy lifestyle, has led you back to where you're like, this is normal. This is what it is. Chronic disease is not normal. And I can't keep telling people that enough. Don't accept chronic disease as a
right.
state. And, you know, it really depends too how long you've been sick, but listening to your story, I would hope will bring really a good amount of hope for someone. But I do have another question, which I always get. So I always want to make a point to ask is, Kelley, what do you eat in a day? Because if I don't ask, there will be some nasty comments if I don't.
Right. So what do I eat in a day? Well, definitely every morning for breakfast, I have some steel cut oats, and actually I'm kind of obsessed with my oats right now. I just finally got the combination, and I called it my chunky monkey recipe. So it's steel cut oats, cinnamon, just a touch of maple syrup, some flaxseed, some, banana, obviously, and a couple of dark chocolate, vegan dark chocolate chips, and walnuts as well too. So that's definitely my breakfast. And sometimes I follow the information that's provided by so many of these wonderful doctors that are out there, and all the information that we have. So often I do have also a green salad with my breakfast. So I'm getting my greens in.
Awesome.
very, very often. So I'll have, and then probably some other type of fruit. It might be, some blueberries and strawberries, and maybe some cantaloupe. And then for lunch, it's gonna, it just really varies. But today I actually had nachos, in which everyone's like, okay, like, how is that even possible? But so I had a couple of days ago, I made some queso from cashews, and then I put in some Rotel tomatoes, canned tomatoes, fire roasted, and I kind of like it a little bit spicy too. So, and some diced jalapeno peppers in there, and some black beans. And then also I've been experimenting with like some soy curls and like TVP as well, and like seasoning it with like a homemade taco seasoning, because it's low in sodium. And I actually, it's going to be one of the recipes that I'm going to post of my own for the first time. And because I was saying I found a recipe that replaces the chili con queso recipe from my favorite restaurant, or from a family favorite restaurant. And I'm like, oh, I don't even know how to explain this, but it's not loaded with all of the animal fats and the cheese and everything else that is just so unhealthy for us. And it's like I always try to do that, is to find some a recipe to replace like those favorites that you always have. But then I also had like a nice side of broccoli with that as well, and I might even have like a salad with that too. But then and then now it's and we're recording this on a Friday, so for a Friday night for me here, I'm actually going to make some Asian food for dinner. So like when we're finished with this, so I'm going to make some spicy Asian noodles. I picked up some vegetable sushi that is wrapped in brown rice and quinoa, and along with that, and I'm going to make some miso ramen soup. So, and with some tofu in there and everything. It's just a big array of flavors.
So that's fabulous. And your girls, are they on board with the plant-based diet as well? Where are they in their journey?
Yeah, not so much. Yeah, they're really not so much on board yet. And but I keep trying to do everything I can to educate them. And and also sneak in some things here and there, and often so they're a little bit on the older side, as older teenagers, and so I kind of like leave them for themselves, and said if they want they can cook for themselves and everything like that. But then I I do my own thing. And
yeah, absolutely. I feel like for the younger people, having raised, because we went to a plant-based diet, my kids were 13, 15, and 18, and now they're 28, almost 26, and will be 24 in October. So the main thing that I did was, the boys were younger. My daughter went off to college and then to medical school. They're all plant-based now, but we spoke a lot about animals and then the climate. And that really was a kicker, because they were always super healthy, athletic.
Right.
But then, I was relentless. I made them watch all sorts of I'm a little bit more, people are like, you need to give people space, give them a job. I'm like, yeah, you know what? Nah, that is not how I'm working. So y'all do your thing. I'm going to be a little more aggressive, because I feel there's such a sense of urgency, right? Because I talk to people who are sick all day, and I'm like, geez, come on, guys, there is no time to waste here. And so but I understand it is a journey, and being a parent, it can be a challenging one at that. So the hardest job, I think we would agree, ever.
I try to do everything I can to keep providing the knowledge to them, and, and educating them about it. But often they're just, they kind of brush me off like, Mom, you don't know what you're talking about. But then also another story that I would love to share is actually the one of my mother.
Yes.
And so I had said before, so my mom has peripheral artery disease. And so she has hardening of, and, like clogging of the arteries in her legs. And and I think it was in 2013 was when she had one of her first surgeries, but she's had a total of, I don't even know what the number is at right now, but it's over 10 surgeries that she's had, between getting stents put into her legs, and then she's also had bypass on both of her legs. With the arteries in her legs. And and she's had difficulty like just walking, from even like 20 feet or, 100 feet, like down the hallway to like throw her garbage out, and without, having like severe pain. And so this past fall, she had mentioned to me at one time, she's like, oh, what would you like for Christmas? And she goes, as long as it's something that I can afford. I said, you know what I would really love? I said, I would love for you to give me 1 month. I said, just give me 1 month. I will do everything I can to support you if you just eat the way that I do. And because I just knew in my head, if my mom had, if she saw progress in that 1 month, then it would just motivate her just to keep going.
Mm-hmm.
Well, as of the Monday after Thanksgiving of last year, she goes, okay, I'm going to give this a try. I'll do this until Christmas. And that's what pretty much what her, her thought was and her mindset. She's like, okay, I'm going to do this and I'll give you until Christmas. And she jumped right in, went 100% in. And I said, she is still on this 100%. And she has lost over 25 pounds. She had said at the time, I said that she probably averaged maybe 1,000 steps a day. And she goes, oh no, she goes, it was probably maybe even 500, because she would get up, and make her coffee and then go sit in her chair and then, just like succumbing to the pain. And now she's averaging anywhere from like 6,000 to 8,000 steps a day.
Wow.
And her pain has significantly gone down. She actually just recently had her blood work done. All of her numbers are in normal ranges. The only one that wasn't in the normal range was her creatinine level. And I think it was at 1.2, and we'd like it to be, it's just a little bit
the renal function. Yeah, it's a kidney function. So the creatinine.
And but that is, the understanding of like everything is all connected. It's like, okay, if you're having issues here, it's going to affect your, your arteries in your kidneys. It's going to affect your arteries in your heart, into your brain, to, everything else that's, it's one thing, or, our lifestyle, it affects everything of us, and but to note that it was only after like I guess it was 2 months after she had been on this diet, but she had her blood work done 3 months prior to that. And at that time, so she was just at high normal there, but at the time of 3 months prior, that value was at 1.8.
Wow.
So like everything is, and she just, everything going in the right direction, like so quickly for her. And so that's what I was just trying to, and my mom had the mindset, it's like, oh, I'm too old, it's too far gone for me. And it just has been doing everything, to help and keep her motivated. And
do you mind asking, how old is your mom?
She's 72 years old.
All right. So perfect example. I mean, it makes sense. The kidney is a very vascular organ. It's constantly filtering your blood and, removing toxins and creating urine, that type of thing. So that's fabulous. I mean, your mom owes you such a debt. I'm sure she must be like, thank you.
Yeah. It's been great. It's really has, it's helped us. Like we joke about it too, but, our relationship, and then also, and just, bringing community together, and just, to supporting each other, and then supporting, and then, maybe her friends are going to ask about like, hey, well, what are you doing? It's, how is this happening? And then now somebody else wants to talk to me.
Yeah. Which brings us to your website, right? And some of the things you're doing. Can you tell me about that, please?
Yeah. So, it's been so exciting on what I felt like is my own journey. And so I've always said that I know all this knowledge now, and what I do is I just keep trying to like educate myself. And I've been I listen to podcasts all the time in my commute, listen to, many audiobooks, and then also reading all of the books as well. and just keep trying to surround myself with the knowledge so that I can, and reminding myself all the time of like why I'm doing what I'm doing. So hopefully, I don't slip off track, but I can't imagine that I would anymore at this point.
Yeah.
But it's like when this is happening, like when I start talking about it, I just want to, continue to have a conversation with everybody that will even listen. And as I said, I want to stand, on the rooftops and on the mountaintops and like yell to everybody. It's like, to everyone else that you don't know what you don't know. And it's like there's so much information out there, and it's like you won't believe this. I said that even like one other thing that I touched on, and I even said to my mom, like during all this, is there's going to be a point where you're going to get a little bit angry. So, because you're going to get, it's very frustrating, and it's very, it anchors you because you've gone through this for so long. It's like, don't you wish that someone had told you this 30 years ago? And,
Right.
and then we would have never had to go through, all of these surgeries and all the medication and all the, the mental anguish, the physical anguish. It's just,
Right.
it's rather frustrating. So the thing that one thing I always remind myself, and I have this posted in my office at work, and also like here right behind me is a quote from Maya Angelou. And it says, do the best that you can until you know better. And when you know better, do better. So I've kind of like taken that as my own motto, is I want to do everything I can to help everybody around me to know better. And so I have started this journey of getting a certification as a health and wellness coach with WellCoaches, because obviously I'm not trained in this or anything, and that's what I want to do. I want to help. What is the best way that I can bring this message to people and to help them adopt this type of lifestyle. And again, it's not just about like the whole food, plant-based, that is a big set of it, but also, your mind, your body, and also, your community relationships, things like that. So I have started as well. I've started like my own Facebook page and on Instagram, and then also a website. My website, it's called Thriving on Veg. Is it's the title of, like, I don't know, of my brand, I guess, if you want to put it that way, but it really is just in like, the beginning stages, and everyone's got to start somewhere. So hopefully it'll, start to take off after I finish my certification, and then maybe, gather all the information from all of these different resources, and put together my own program that I can, help people on how to transition into this type of lifestyle.
Awesome. And what is the Facebook group and your Instagram handle? We'll put everything in the show notes, but go ahead, please share.
Yeah, it's Thriving. So it's Thriving without the G on Veg.
Okay. And that's both the Facebook and Instagram?
Yes, both of them. And also the website, but it really is like, the website is just a shell right now, but it's, thrivingonveg.com.
You'll start. That's the thing. That's all you have to do, is you have to get started.
Yes, exactly. Got to start somewhere.
We all have our beginning. And so before you know it, it's 10 years later. But no, I will tell you, I think this is a fabulous story. And I know you're going to influence and inspire many who are listening, and many people in your future. You don't even know who the ripple effect will be. So thank you, Kelley.
Looking forward to get a nice, community together, and just, for everyone to support each other.
And that's all we want. I always tell people, my patients, like, please put me out of business. That means I've done my job, and, we become physicians because we want to heal people. And to see others join in that mission, be it physicians or non-physicians or whoever, in any capacity they can, is such a joy. So being on this journey together is so much more enjoyable than doing it alone. So exactly, I agree with your community aspect. And with that, any final words you'd like to share with the audience, maybe to someone who's thinking about doing something like this, or they're like, I don't know, what would be that one bit of advice you give to someone who's on the edge, on the veg edge?
Yes. The one thing I'd say is just, give it a try. Don't, what do you have to lose? And that was the one thing I had said to my mom, and she had said, oh, some weight. I'm like, oh, and that would be great. But it just, there's so much life to live, and we can do it healthfully. And that's just wonderful. Just give it a try, and don't be afraid to, don't give up, and just try different, different recipes. Always, you can do it stepwise. You can do it by jumping all in, and, but always like set goals for yourself, almost, your own personal challenges, and just build on it. And don't be afraid to, to look for the information, ask the questions, and just keep educating yourself. It's, like I said, once you know better, then you can do better. And I think we all want better for ourselves.
Absolutely. And don't let perfection get in the way of progress. So
yes,
you just keep doing better you can every moment, every meal, every day. So with that, I want to thank you again for being on the podcast. I think this is wonderful. And everyone, please check out all her information. Give her a follow on Facebook, Instagram, and check out her website. And I'm sure there'll be more content coming. As you said, it's just starting. And we're here to support you guys in anything we can do. And thanks for listening. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed that video. Before you go though, please hit the subscribe button and the alert button so you'll be notified whenever we release any new videos. We upload a new episode of Blueberry with Dr. Lori Marbas on Friday. Now, if you'd rather listen to the podcast, you can find us on all the major platforms, such as iTunes, Google Play, SoundCloud, and even Spotify. If you're looking for amazing resources to help you start a plant-based diet, sustain a plant-based diet, exercise, recipes, or anything wellness, we got you covered there too. Because at Blueberry, we actually provide physician-led support groups to help people live happier, healthier lives and free from metabolic disease. Don't forget to check out our website at blueberry.health, and thanks again for watching.